Hi, my name is Christina, and I'm going to be doing a refutation on my adversary's claim of the IMF and the world market is harmful. His secondary supporting claims are: 1, reduces sovereignty by dependence on foreigners; 2, SAPs, which are structural adjustment programs, stop growth of the country; and 3, programs damage the people and the country. So going back to the first supporting claim of reduces sovereignty by dependence on foreigners. In evidence challenge to what he states that it's a form of neocolonialism. A financially powerful country looks to gain political and economic power by gaining a large influence in underdeveloped countries in order to pay back the loans they were already struggling to pay. Now, he doesn't show any example of which countries these happen to, and there's no statistical evidence that actually proves it. So in his reasoning that this is actually going on, it's false because there is no evidence to support that. In his second claim, which is structural adjustment programs stop the growth of the country, once again, he just keeps supporting his claims by other claims. He does not show any statistical analysis to prove that they're actually stopping the growth. When in fact, on April 25, 2010, the International Monetary Fund website posts that commodity exporters with less access to international markets will have to fight against their past habits of spending the increased government revenues from rising prices and build more credibility in their macroeconomic policy frameworks. They need to make some structural reforms to deal with supply-side issues to enhance their ability to grow. So, in fact, these structural reforms or the adjustment programs do help. If they do not make these adjustments, they're going to be depending on their own independent financial revenues from the government. But by having the extra help from the other countries, it in fact helps the growth, not stops it. And now moving on to his third claim, which programs damage the people and the country. The evidence that he does use is, for example, Argentina was lent $26 billion in 1958, and the country's GDP per capita, or economic output per person, has only gone up about $1,000 in 50 years. Other countries such as Brazil and Turkey have shown very little increases. Now, yes, these increases may be little, but is it an increase? It is, because $1,000 in 50 years, yeah, it's still increasing. So it's not slowing it down, it's not damaging it, it's not decreasing, it's still an increase. Nothing's going to change overnight, of course, but it does show that it is helping somewhat. It may be slow, but it is helping. He also makes a sweeping generalization by using just off of Argentina alone. He doesn't mention any other countries, and not all of them are exactly like Argentina. So it's pretty much, it's wrong to just base it off of one country when there's many other ones that are being helped by it. Such as the Deputy Managing Director of the IMF announced at a conference that just the case of Korea, by 1999, even 2 years after the recession, Korea's real GDP will still be more than 50% higher than a decade before, and from there it will build again. It shows that not all the programs are damaging all countries. It's just he cannot make a sweeping generalization just based on Argentina alone. Now, he uses another statistic where it's many of the loans given by the IMF have been stolen by corrupt government, mainly present in sub-Saharan African countries. According to Pro International, in 2006, $1 trillion worth of loans disappeared, and none of this money was seen by the people of the country, instead further creating a divide. He just basically reasons that he's making a cause and effect off of that. Because we don't see the money, it's the IMF's fault. When there is no relation, there's other factors that could be going on. Like you mentioned that the government in Africa may be corrupt, and it's not fair to just blame it all on the IMF and that they're not doing anything to help when there's other factors that are going on. So after all these claims and realizing that he does not support them enough, or his reasoning and his evidence are not valid, I hope you can realize that the IMF and the world market cannot prove that it may not be harmful. Thank you.
Right, the structural issues are fine. The argument about, on the first point, neocolonialism, that there's a lack of evidence either of an example or statistic, I think that's a reasonable press to be making on that point. That's the fact that they don't have any examples is fine. Later on, you've got an example of one place where there has been a success that applies on the success point. If you could have some examples, for instance, about how these countries are allowed to continue to make decisions for themselves, I think that would just strengthen your argument there. On the SAPs, you've got an okay explanation of the idea, but you've got a long quote from the IMF. I'm not sure what it ultimately ends up meaning, and that it shows that there has been any impact. So I think that that's a little bit problematic. On the third point, you suggest that the examples that are being used, there's something problematic with them. You're still willing to give them, well, they show there's some growth because it's been $1,000 increase or whatever the percentage was since the 1950s in Argentina. Maybe the $1,000 seems like a low number, but maybe as a percentage it's different. I don't know how the contrast is being made there. The one counterexample that you have here is Korea, and I think that you should be able to get a little bit more out of that. Also, you might be able to show that some of these countries that are being used as illustrations have had some kind of success, but we don't get any data on that. And on the last point on corruption, mostly it's it's a finger-pointing thing, although the question that occurs to my mind is the country is responsible and the officials are the ones that are corrupt. The country is the one that still is getting screwed. So I'm not exactly sure that that fixes the problem that, who ultimately committed the crime. The country is the one that still is going to be on the hook for the money.